Imagine this for a moment. A man waits years, perhaps, for a legal decision. He finally gets acquitted, cleared, freedom, and then, just hours later, almost immediately after, tragedy strikes. He dies in custody.
It's a deeply unsettling scenario, and that's exactly what we're diving into today, an event that happened just days ago, July 31st, 2025, and it really forces us to confront some difficult questions.
We're talking about the death of P. Maramu. He was a 58-year-old tribal man, and he died while being held at the Udumalpet Forest Range Office. That's in Tirupur, Tamil Nadu.
Right, and the circumstances are, well, they're murky, we have conflicting stories, serious allegations flying around, and a timeline that, frankly, raises more questions than it answers.
So our mission today is to really unpack what we know. We'll look at the details, piece together the sequence of events as best we can, hear the different sides, the official version, the family's claims, and try to understand the much bigger picture here.
Because this isn't just about one man's tragic death, is it? It shines a light on these really complex tensions between wildlife conservation, which is vital, and the rights of indigenous communities who've lived on these lands for generations.
Exactly. And it all unfolded at this forest range office in Udumalpet. Usually you'd associate a place like that with, protecting tigers, managing the Udumalpet Tiger Reserve in the Western Ghats.
A place focused on biodiversity, conservation efforts. But on July 31st, it became the center of a human drama, a controversy about justice and how people are treated in custody.
Let's start with the man himself, P. Maramu. Who was he? Tell us a bit about him.
Well, Maramu was 58, part of the Mthuven tribal community, originally from a place called Mel Hamlet, which is actually inside the Udumalpet Tiger Reserve area. So his community has deep roots there.
Right, deep roots in the very forests the reserve aims to protect.
Precisely. Though apparently he'd moved some years ago to Surianelli, which is near Munnar, over the border in Kerala. But his connection to that ancestral land, that community, that remained.
And what brought him back to Udumalpet just before all this happened? On July 30th.
This is where the story takes that incredibly bitter twist. He was there for a court case, an old case related to ganja possession or cultivation, something relatively minor in the grand scheme of things, especially in those remote areas.
Okay, so a drug charge hearing.
Yes, but here's the thing. He'd just been acquitted. On July 30th, the court cleared him. Imagine the relief. He's free to go home, put this behind him.
Wow, acquitted. So he's on his way home, presumably feeling that weight lift off his shoulders.
Exactly, heading back home. But that journey home, it didn't last long. His bus was stopped.
Where was this?
At the Chinnar checkpoint. It's right there on the border between Tamil Nadu and Kerala. A routine stop, maybe, but this time it wasn't routine for Maramu.
Who stopped the bus?
It was the Kerala Excise Department. They're usually looking for illegal liquor, drugs, things like that. And during their check, they found something.
Not drugs, though, given he just acquitted of that.
No, something else entirely. They reportedly found leopard teeth in his possession.
Leopard teeth. Okay, that changes everything, doesn't it?
Immediately. Under India's Wildlife Protection Act, possessing parts of a Schedule I animal like a leopard, that's a very serious offense. We're talking significant penalties, potential jail time. It's taken extremely seriously because these animals are highly protected.
So from the relief of acquittal for a minor charge to suddenly facing a major wildlife crime accusation.
A huge, stark reversal of fortune in just a matter of hours. And things started moving very quickly then. Because it was found in Kerala, but involved wildlife likely from the Tamil Nadu side, there was a handover process.
Okay, so who took custody first?
The Kerala Excise Department handed him over to the Kerala Forest Department. Standard procedure given the nature of the alleged offense.
And then, because he ended up in Tamil Nadu.
Right. The Kerala Forest Department then transferred him across the border to the Tamil Nadu forest officials. Makes sense, jurisdictionally, given the Udumalpet Tiger Reserve connection.
And we know when he arrived at the Udumalpet Range Office.
We do. The records state he arrived at 12:02 a.m., just after midnight on July 31st. Remember that time, 12:02 a.m.
Okay, 12:02 a.m. July 31st. He's now in the custody of the Tamil Nadu Forest Department at their Udumalpet office. What happens next is, well, it's alarming.
It's incredibly alarming because of the speed. Less than 5 hours later, by 4:30 a.m. same morning, July 31st, P. Maramu was found dead.
Less than 5 hours. Found dead. What's the official explanation for how this happened so quickly?
The official line, coming from D. Venkatesh, who's the chief conservator of forests and field director of the Udumalpet Tiger Reserve, is that Maramu died by suicide.
Suicide.
Yes. They claim he hanged himself in the toilet at the range office, apparently during a break in the interrogation process.
In the toilet during interrogation, and what happened immediately after he was found.
His body was taken to the Udumalpet General Hospital for a post-mortem examination, and the Tirupur District Police were notified and began an inquiry, which is standard procedure for any custodial death in India.
But this official account, suicide, within hours of detention, it wasn't accepted by everyone, was it?
Not at all. Almost immediately, a counter-narrative emerged, driven primarily by Maramuthu's family, particularly his daughter, M. Sindhu.
What is she alleging?
She's making very serious claims. First, she alleges illegal detention. But crucially, she also claims the family wasn't notified promptly about his death.
What does she mean by not promptly?
She states they were only informed on July 31st after he had already died. Think about that. The implication is that they weren't told he was even critically ill or found deceased until sometime later that day.
That delay in notification, if true, that's a huge red flag, isn't it? The standard procedure usually requires immediate family contact.
Absolutely. It raises serious questions about transparency. Why the delay? What was happening in those hours? And her claims feed into broader concerns voiced by tribal rights activists.
How so? What's the connection they're making?
Activists see this not as an isolated tragedy, but as potentially part of a deeply disturbing pattern. They point to other cases, other allegations over the years, involving custodial deaths or alleged mistreatment, even torture of tribal individuals when detained by authorities.
So they view this through a lens of historical grievances and potential systemic issues.
Precisely. There's a lack of trust, a feeling that tribal communities are particularly vulnerable when interacting with law enforcement, or in this case, forest officials. They're demanding a thorough, impartial investigation that looks beyond just the immediate claim of suicide.
And how did the public react? You mentioned this happened just days ago.
The reaction online, especially on social media in Tamil, was swift and strong. From July 31st onwards, there was outrage, calls for justice, #Justice for Maramu type hashtags. People picked up on the family's allegations, the suspicious timeline.
So the narrative shifted quickly from man caught with leopard teeth to possible custodial death.
Yes, it became a human rights issue very quickly in the public sphere. The Forest Department found itself defending not just its conservation actions, but its handling of a person in its custody.
To really understand the depth here, we need to go back to the context. You mentioned the Mthuven Tribe. Tell us more about their relationship with this area, the Western Ghats.
The Mthuven people have an ancient, incredibly deep connection to these forests. They didn't just move there. They've been part of that ecosystem for centuries, maybe millennia. They possess immense traditional knowledge, plants, animals, navigating the terrain.
They're sometimes called guardians of the forest, aren't they?
Exactly. That term reflects their historical role and their intimate understanding of the environment. Their culture, their livelihoods, their spiritual beliefs, it's all intrinsically linked to the forest. It's not just a resource. It's home. It's identity.
And then you have the Forest Department operating in the same space, the Animal Tiger Reserve. What's their specific role and mandate?
Their mandate is conservation, pure and simple. Animalai is a critical tiger reserve, a biodiversity hotspot. It's home to endangered tigers, leopards, elephants, countless other species. The department's job is to protect this habitat and these animals from threats like poaching, habitat destruction, illegal activities.
Which is, of course, a crucial job for conservation.
Absolutely vital. They operate under strict laws, like the Wildlife Protection Act Maramuthu was accused under. Their actions are driven by the need to preserve this fragile ecosystem for the future.
So you have these two groups, the indigenous community with deep roots in traditional practices, and the state agency focused on strict legal conservation. It sounds like a recipe for potential conflict.
It often is. There's an inherent tension there. Wildlife laws, necessary as they are, can sometimes directly clash with the traditional ways of life for communities like the Mthuven. Practices that might have been sustainable or culturally significant for generations can suddenly become illegal under modern conservation frameworks.
And possessing leopard teeth could fall right into that gray area, couldn't it? Depending on how they were acquired.
It potentially could. While illegal under the Act, the context matters to the community. Was it from an animal found dead? Was it an old heirloom passed down? Was it related to traditional beliefs or rituals? The law sees it one way possession is illegal, but the cultural context might be entirely different.
Maramuthu's case seems to perfectly encapsulate this dilemma. The alleged crime itself sits right at that intersection of conservation law and potential traditional context.
It really does. It throws that friction point into sharp relief. How does the state enforce vital conservation laws while respecting the rights and cultural realities of indigenous people who also see themselves as stewards of the land.
And right now, we just don't have the definitive truth about what happened in that range office.
No, the truth is very much contested. We have the official claim of suicide. We have the family's strong allegations of illegal detention and suspicious death, possibly hinting at torture or foul play. Both sides are waiting, presumably, for the post-mortem results and the outcome of the police inquiry.
So it boils down to this stark contrast.
Yeah.
The Forest Department asserting they were doing their duty enforcing wildlife laws, and the family and activists alleging a grave violation of human rights.
That's the core conflict right now, and it forces us to think, how do we balance these critical priorities? Protecting endangered species is non-negotiable for many, but so are fundamental human rights and dignity, especially for historically marginalized communities.
And you emphasized earlier, this isn't just a local story from Tamil Nadu, it has broader relevance.
Absolutely. This kind of conflict conservation goals versus indigenous rights plays out all over the world. In the Amazon, in Africa, in Southeast Asia, wherever protected areas overlap with ancestral lands. Maramuthu's case is a specific, tragic instance of a global challenge.
It forces us, wherever we are, to ask questions about justice, about accountability, about how we manage these complex intersections when different, valid priorities collide.
Yes, how do societies navigate these friction points fairly and justly? That's the universal question this case brings to the fore.
So wrapping this up for today, where do things stand? As of now, late July 2025.
As of now, the death of P. Maramuthu is officially unexplained beyond the initial claim of suicide, which is heavily disputed. Was it suicide? Or was it something darker, as the allegations suggest? The incredibly short timeline, the conflicting stories, it leaves a huge cloud of uncertainty.
It really does. And this deep dive, I think, has shown just how layered this is. Law enforcement, conservation, indigenous rights, it's all tangled together in this one incident.
It's a powerful reminder, isn't it, that even when pursuing a goal as important as conservation, the human cost, the rights of individuals, especially vulnerable ones, have to be absolutely central. They can't be an afterthought.
So the question we leave you with is this.
Yeah.
How do we ensure that protecting wildlife doesn't come at the cost of human dignity and rights? Especially the rights of people who've lived alongside that wildlife for centuries.
And maybe even more fundamentally, what does it take to find the real truth when an incident is shrouded in so much controversy and mistrust? How do we achieve clarity and accountability when the stakes are this high and the narratives are so opposed? It challenges all of us to look deeper.